Are we ready to go, Debbie?
We are indeed.
Okay. My name is Chris Beasley, and I am here with John Hollister, the CFO of Silicon Labs. And he has graciously agreed to talk with us today about kind of his background and what he's done for Silicon Labs, and perhaps some of the other things that he's also got moving forward in the future. I'm going to talk real briefly about some of the things that he's got in his bio. And I was going to also encourage everyone to type in the chat box any questions that you have. We'll be able to address those. John will be able to address those as well. And just please do get involved with this conversation because it'll make it a lot more fun for everybody. But not very often do I get to interview somebody who is in the accounting world that has as much of a sense of humor as John does. I'm going to tell a little story about how I met John, which was a few months ago at a dinner. And everybody's probably looking at us saying, hey, you guys must be brothers. And that's kind of how we met, because I looked at him and I said, damn, you look good. And he actually gave me a hug. He has no idea who I am. And he comes over and gives me a hug. And then I found out who he was. And I was like, oh, no, man. But then after we sat down, we had a good time together. And I asked him to do this interview, because really the point here is to take someone like John, who's really done some cool things, and be able to let them tell their side of the story. Because I think a lot of times there's people on the other side of that, you know, someone like John has accomplished a ton of things. He's been with Silicon Labs now for 17 years. He joined Silicon Labs in 2004 and has held various financial management positions. He advanced to the VP of Manufacturing and Asia Operations in 2009. In 2012, he returns back to Austin to be the Vice President of Business Development. That is a little bit of a strange thing to hear about an accounting person, John. I do want to hear a little bit more about that in a moment. Prior to joining Silicon Labs, he served as the VP of Finance at Cicada Semiconductors, and held various finance positions with Cirrus Logic, Veritas, and he was also at PricewaterhouseCoopers. And then, of course, there is 3D Geophysical, which is a Denver company. He is a certified public accountant and holds a master's degree in professional accounting, and has a BA from the University of Texas. So those of you that are on the phone from Texas, you have someone here that is a great person to represent you. 2013 to 2021, he served on the board of the Central Texas chapter of the American Red Cross. And in 2018, John was awarded the Public Company CFO of the Year. So, John, did I miss anything?
You got it, Chris.
All right. Do you want to say anything to our people right now?
No, just thanks everyone for the time, and thank you, Chris and Armanino, for hosting the webinar. And I hope we can, share some insights and have some fun today. So it's great to be with you.
Okay, great. I am gonna take a moment here. We're gonna step back and kind of learn a little bit about what makes John tick. One of the things that I found kind of interesting about John is he claims that he is not a normal person. So I'd like to learn a little bit about that as well. And I think probably the best place to start here right now is to maybe talk a little bit about your background in Texas, kind of where you came from, where it all began. You got a couple of funny stories there that I thought would be really cool to bring up. But do you want to maybe start there and tell us about the years of your youth?
Yeah, sure, Chris. So yeah, I'm a native Texan, born in Dallas, and come from a family who's been in Texas for a long time. 150 years, longtime farmers and ranchers. My grandfather was a sharecropper. Dad was the first person to graduate from college. So, really come from humble roots, if you will, going back. My dad worked in finance and banking, and he kind of got a good reputation as a turnaround specialist, if you will, working in banking. So we moved around a lot actually growing up. So I had a lot of experience, showing up at new schools every 4 or 5 years, making new friends, learning new environment. And I think that informed my ability to change later in life and through my career. We also had kind of a culture of hard work. So as I mentioned, my dad worked in an office. We lived in the city or town where he was based, but on the side, we always had a lot of, ranching activities going on, primarily raising cattle, that type of thing, building fence. And, so a lot of time with my brothers, our 3 older brothers, spending time working out on the farm, on the ranch, doing that sort of stuff. And, we would, get a little out of control sometimes. One time, my older brother tried to ride a cow, got bucked and broke his shoulder. So plenty of crazy stories like that out on the land. But a lot of good experiences and memories from that. As Chris mentioned, I did go to UT. I come from a family of Aggies. When they decided to start talking to me again, we kind of healed up, and that was all okay. Now that they're gate crashing the SEC, UT that is, we're backsliding. So we might have to have a separate webinar on that, but life goes on. So, and then we moved on to UT and spent a few years studying economics, moved into the accounting program, as you mentioned, Chris, and on to Big Four public accounting. And, that kind of takes us to the career phase.
Now, real quick, did you ever wrestle a cow?
I never wrestled a cow, but I had one come after me once in a corral that was pretty intense, but never actually wrestled one.
Okay. I grew up in Jersey, so I've heard of things like cow tipping. Did you ever do any of that over there?
Never did any cow tipping. No.
Okay. One of the things that you had mentioned, just to go back a quick second here, you said a lot of times that your brothers were out partying, but you were really motivated by something different. Maybe it was that you were the youngest of the 4, but you did a lot of watching of what your dad was doing. How do you think that kind of propelled you into where you are today?
Yeah. So, I would really study him, and some of y'all are probably too young to remember this, but there was a famous old TV show called Wall Street Week with Louis Rukeyser. And I remember Friday nights hanging out with Dad, just me and him, really fond memories of that, studying that, talking to him, learning about markets and interest rates and inflation and like, what does all this mean from the time of being a kid. So really studying this stuff early on in life. Yeah.
Cool. All right, so let's go to this notion of you being a little bit abnormal and kind of the path that you took. You've done some very different things. I mean, you've been a VP of BD, which is still vexing to me, but not because you were a VP of BD, but because you have you've been a CFO of a huge publicly traded company. You've been an operator for global entities, and then you come back to be a BD person. So that is a little bit normal. That's or abnormal. That's a little different path than I would say the most people get to being a CFO. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about how you were able to go about doing that.
Yeah, Chris, it kind of goes back to even my time at 3D Geophysical, a Denver-based company that we sold back in the late 90s. Yeah, but I had some good, solid transaction experience there. We were a publicly listed company. We received a tender offer from a company called Western Atlas and navigated sell-side due diligence, finalizing the deal. I was helpful in getting that done. And then, after a little time at Cirrus Logic, I worked for a startup company called Cicada Semiconductor. and went through a similar process of selling the company to Veritas Semiconductor in 2004. And even at the time I spent at Cirrus Logic, I did some work with some of our executives on some buy-side deals. We actually acquired a company in Boulder called Audio Logic, who had a hearing aid based audio technology. So, at my time at Silicon Labs, even early on, I was involved in some of the buy-side M&A that we were doing. When we divested our cell phone transceiver business, I was active on that project. So I had a fair amount of transaction experience in my career up to that point. And, returning to Austin, the incumbent corp development officer was interested in going back into an operating role. So he made that transition, and it opened up a spot for me to come in and lead our corporate development. So, and that was a really interesting time back in 2012 as Tyson, our CEO, was just new in the role, and we were really pivoting the company heavily onto our Internet of Things strategy. So really for the last, almost 10 years now, Tyson and I have worked carefully on, numerous acquisitions, really running about one every 12 to 18 months to bolster our presence in the Internet of Things market. We've did a couple on the other side of our business as well. But so, I had some earlier history in that in my career and have been able to leverage that recently.
Now, did we lose John?
Gotcha.
Oh, thought I lost you there for a second. One of the things I was hoping you might shed a little more light on is, I think a lot of people have heard the term Internet of Things. Right. Can you maybe give us a high level idea of what that really is and what that means to kind of the future of technology and what it's going to do for you guys?
Absolutely. If you go back in the early days of computers, you think about the fundamental elements of computing, storage, and communications. And as we all got our first laptop or our first PC, you understand those elements of it. And then, 10, 15 years later, lo and behold, those same elements of computing, storage, and communications were able to be deployed in smartphones. So we get our first iPhone and then all the apps, and it's doing much more than the old cell phones. And now what we're seeing is that technology is advancing to the point that we can deliver, computation, storage, and communication to many different types of devices, from home security, home automation equipment, factory automation, what's happening in the electricity grid, all kinds of applications on the industrial side and retail applications. And it's really bringing those fundamental building blocks to, non-traditional embedded applications, and oftentimes that are battery operated. So part of the challenge to making that work, because we don't want to run around with a micro USB cable all the time, recharging all of this stuff. Your smart door lock, you want that to be able to run for a couple of years without worrying about it, and being able to communicate wirelessly what's happening without worrying about it. That's what we specialize in. That's what our Internet of Things business is all about, is delivering that. And it's based on our strength in analog mixed signal technology and radio technology. Our company has communication specialists who are industry leaders, and we're able to combine that with microcontroller technology that we've now had in the company for 20 plus years, and deliver that in a fully integrated system on chip platform that's driving our growth now. And we're a pure play now that we've divested our infrastructure and automotive business, which I'm sure we'll get into.
Sure thing. Okay, so one of the things that you said that I found very intriguing were there weren't any chess pieces that I moved. What did you mean by that when you said that?
Yeah, sometimes I've been asked by folks, early career folks, or interns, people I'm talking to, about how to, they look at my career path and they ask me, how did you engineer this? It looks like you kind of got the operations experience, you got the international experience, you got transaction experience, and it looks all by design. But yeah, it really wasn't. I had a goal of leading a company as a CFO for a long time, but really the moves I've had have been more around what I'd call answering the call of having a need arise, a way I can contribute and play a role and have it be constructive for my career path. So it's been more like that than a master plan. That's all I really meant.
So in 2007, you joined the operations organization,
Right.
and you had a team of 30 engineers.
Yeah.
How many did you grow that to when you left?
About 150. This was a really, really cool assignment. We had a leadership change in our team in Singapore and a need to contribute there. And the company asked me to take that on. And it was a big move. I was moving 10,000 miles away, changing my functional organization and, upending my family to go to Singapore overseas. And we jumped on it, and it was awesome. One of the best experiences I've had in my life. Made a lot of new friends, and we were able to really contribute a lot to what the company was doing at that time. It was an interesting time. We had just completed the divestiture of our cell phone business. I mentioned that a little earlier. We'd also just gone live on SAP, and we're ramping, numerous new products. So it was a challenging time in the beginning. There was a lot of change. A lot of things were in a state of flux, but we came together as a team and sorted things out and got on a good path. And as you mentioned, grew the team a lot in Singapore, and over the course of those 5 years, just about doubled the size of Silicon Labs.
And one of the things I'd like to point out, because I know you don't like to toot your own horn, but one of the things that I found very intriguing was you show up in Singapore in April, and they're basically like, who are you? Why are you here? But by December, you have made significant progress with these folks. What do you think happened during that time to make people want to work with you, for you? All of the above.
Yeah, it was really a lot of communication, a lot of team communication, regular all hands discussions. Openness, open door policy to hear how's it going with everybody. In a couple of cases, willingness to make some changes in the team, but and really just focusing and facilitating on what we need to do to make progress there. So it was, in hindsight, Chris, it doesn't feel like it was hard, but I think what the team really needed was support more than anything, and I was able to offer that.
One of the things I say to some of our folks is that it doesn't matter if you're married, if you have a client, even internally, there's two things that I always think we fail to do, and it's maintain expectations and communicate to the people that we have these relationships with. And I feel like if you could do those two things, you're always going to be pretty successful. My suspicion is you probably have done a lot of that in your life with everything you've done. So I just find that very intriguing that 8 months into it, you've got these people in a different kind of culture. So it's intriguing. So
yeah, no, that's right, Chris, and that was part of the mission. Really, was to bring the Silicon Labs culture to that office. And you just watch and learn from folks before you, and try to follow in those footsteps, and like you say, communicating and understanding the tools of communication are an important part of leadership.
And the reason why I bring this up is because culture is an incredibly huge part of the success of any organization. We're gonna hit that here in a little bit with some baffling percentages that Silicon Labs has produced. But I'm still going to spend a little bit more time here before we get into the nuts and bolts of kind of what your role, how you got to where you are. This notion of being in Singapore for several years to kind of operate an entirely new entity is not the first time you've done this, right? You've done this in the late 90s, correct?
Yeah, that's right. I mentioned the company I was with, 3D Geophysical, at that time, and that was an interesting deal that, also related to transaction experience. Even before we sold the company, we did a secondary offering and bought a company up in Canada. But we had one of our largest founding companies. This was a 5-company merger funded by a simultaneous IPO. It was almost like a SPAC back then, and it presented an immediate challenging integration task to bring this all together as a new public entity, consolidate the financials, et cetera. But the other thing that was happening was more on the corporate governance side of how we were managing the business. And one of our largest subsidiaries was in Mexico City, had some issues there, and just, made the decision with the company to go ahead and head on down there. So I moved down there in 1997, and managed the team and worked hand in hand with the local operations team, and started to gain really, nuts and bolts experience in seismic data operations. And that was really cool, moving from corporate office deeper into the ops side of it. And, got to go to the field, see the crews, went to Peru. We launched a company down there. We started to move into Bolivia at the time we got the offer on the company. But that was a lot of good hands-on experience doing that fairly early on in my career.
So, I mean, to kind of boil this down into, again, you said you took this route that was anything but normal, but do you think it's possible that what you're saying is that what you did was maybe outside the lines of normalcy, but you were still able to take a chance, and who knows what happens next? Is that maybe what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, you're kind of painting me to be a freak a little bit, but that's okay.
That's not intentional, I'm sorry.
It really is that. It's, how can I contribute? And sometimes that means taking a chance, taking a risk. And, if you're successful at it and can execute it, it can really pay off. But sometimes it does involve taking a risk. Yes.
I had this saying with my kids, and I know this isn't about me, but I have this saying with my kids that weird is what makes us who we are. And what I mean by that is, if you don't do something outside the normal stereotype, how do you move up to a different level of leadership? And,
that's right.
And I feel like that's one of the coolest things that we can talk about here. So, all right. So I'm going to start talking a little bit about Silicon Labs itself, and I am going to go with this percentage of people, employees, that say that you are a great place to work. And honestly, this is baffling and amazing all at the same time. But your Silicon Labs is a place where 92% of the employees say, quote, "This is a great place to work," unquote. I don't even know what to say there. That's got to be one of the highest in the country. So tell me a little bit about that.
It's a great place to work. I mean, it's, it really comes down to the culture of the company, who we hire, how we treat people. It's been described that Silicon Labs is a collection of the smartest people you will ever work with. And I firmly believe that. And we take on very difficult tasks and can deliver. And once you get into that mode, we have this saying, Chris, success breeds success, where you get the confidence going and people feel that I am part of a special team who can accomplish great things. And I want to do my part. I want to see what I can do to help further that. And that spirit really permeates our company and our culture, and it's really cool. We also pay attention to this because it's important to us, because we do want to retain our team. So, we do periodic surveys. We focus on things that are going well, areas that we need to focus on, and we also try to have a significant impact on the community. You mentioned my service on the Red Cross. Most of our executives serve leadership roles in various nonprofit organizations. And one thing that we recently did that we're very proud of, COVID has been terrible. Clearly, we had acquired a company about a year ago in Hyderabad, India, where none of us have been able to visit because of the pandemic. And that team has done a fantastic job integrating themselves. We have integrated with them. But, the COVID surge that recently happened in India, we asked the question, what can we do to help? And wanted to leverage their decision-making about that. So we worked with their leadership and came up with a plan to fund the development of an ICU wing at a hospital, and executed that. It got, some good local press, et cetera. But the main point is we were able to contribute to the community in a powerful way. And, that's an example of the type of thing we do to make it, a positive contributor to society.
And that was the employees that came up with that. Not to steal your thunder, sorry, but that was
That's right.
Your employees.
That's right. That was an organic idea right from the team, and we supported it 100%.
Got behind it pretty quickly. And
absolutely
turned it into
yes,
something.
we did. Yes.
So that's great stuff. One of the things that you've also kind of said is the training and employee development, and you have a lot going on, especially in diversity and inclusion.
Yeah.
Goals set out for people and what have you. Can you talk a little bit about that, because that is incredibly important these days? Maybe just give us a little idea of what that looks like for you guys.
It really starts with the philosophy, and it touches a little bit on what you were touching on, Chris, that, a diverse workforce will perform better. Having, diverse views, diverse backgrounds, that contributes to outsized performance, actually, as an organization, in addition, once again, to being the right thing to do. So we do emphasize this. We have started diversity, equity, and inclusion training at the company, leadership training on the topic, general training on the topic. And you kind of touched on it, but one thing we've implemented that we're getting recognized on the street for is including DEI as a component of our executive bonuses. That is pretty forward leaning in the market generally, and just an example of our emphasis on this topic.
Amazing. Okay, so you guys are an incredibly diverse culture. You've got 92% of your employees saying how great a place it is to work, and you are also one of the most sophisticated companies out there. Let's talk a little bit about securing $400 million in convertible bonds, and
Sure.
how you did that and why you did that and the story behind that.
Yeah, you bet. So we had some term debt coming due back a number of years ago, and decided at the same time to add some dry powder to our balance sheet to position us for additional M&A work at a larger scale. So decided, we looked at various forms of how to do that, decided on issuing publicly traded convertible notes as the vehicle to execute that. So picking a banker is an important part of that. We decided to go with Goldman Sachs. I want to give a shout out to Tammy Kiley and Michael Voris, very, very good at what they do. And believe it or not, this can happen a lot faster than an IPO. Issuing convertible notes can be as short as a 2 to 3 week process. Prepping the marketing materials, getting the investor deck ready, getting the press releases ready, and assembling the lineup of who we're going to talk to, how we're going to do this. And then you launch. We had a 1-day marketing exercise to market the deal. And then you price at the end of that day. You go to market with the pricing range. So it's not a huge surprise. You kind of have an idea of where sorry, my microphone's toggling on and off. You can hear me now, right?
I can hear you.
Okay. So, you go to market with the 1-day marketing, you price that at the end of the day, and then close it a few days later. So, pleased with our execution on that, and that set us up well to conduct more of the M&A work that we did later on.
Great. So let's talk about, did you have the money earmarked for anything in particular? I mean, you got dry powder in the bank account. You kind of have that now, so that's going to be an interesting conversation as well. But I mean, did you have a specific target in mind at that point, or what did you do there?
No, we didn't. We really wanted to pre-fund onward work in that domain, but did not have anything in particular at that time.
Okay. All right. Now in 2018, Silicon Labs acquires a publicly traded company by the name of Sigma Designs from Sigma Design. No, sorry. Let me try that again. Acquired a publicly traded company, Sigma Designs, and it was their Z-Wave business that you guys were after. This just sounds kind of crazy. How you acquire a publicly traded company. I mean, I think there are movies about it or something. So tell us a little bit about that and how you kind of did that.
You bet. So Sigma had a number of businesses, one of which was their Z-Wave business, which is now part of our sub-gigahertz Internet of Things connectivity portfolio. And, it's something we had been interested in for a while and had begun talking to their team about. We decided to pursue the acquisition by making a proposal for the entire company. But we had some closing conditions identified that we wanted resolved before we would close the deal. And in the absence of that, we would revert to them just selling us the Z-Wave asset. So that's actually what ended up happening. And it was a fairly unique public deal where typically when you're acquiring a company from public shareholders, it's, one and done. Here's the offer, we're out, it's over. But in this case, they actually had conditions associated with it. So there was some uncertainty as to what would ultimately happen in the transaction. But, everybody saw the logic of the deal and agreed that that was the best path forward. So that's what ended up happening. And, proud of us being able to execute that and come up with a novel way of getting there.
Now, you called this somewhat unprecedented, which it does indeed sound like that, but you received an award for it. What does that look like?
Yeah, this was it was unprecedented for the reasons I indicated that typically there are not conditions associated with a public deal. Here we were able to navigate that, and for that we received the corporate M&A deal of the year from Atlas Awards, and this is mainly in the law area. So the nomination for that was put forth by one of the attorneys who worked on the deal.
So you're getting awards from attorneys now.
Yep.
Sorry, attorneys, I'm not making fun of you. All right. So what are some of the metrics that you and your team utilized to kind of make this idea turn into a real bona fide deal? I mean, it's got to be, there's got to be so many things moving so quickly and it's very complex. How do you finally look at it and say, this is the deal that we want, and this is what the way forward for us?
Just tremendous teamwork and, a lot of communication with the other side, with their chairman, CEO, both of whom were very constructive and supportive. But you just have to, you reach certain points in negotiations where you kind of get to a point where, well, are we going to do a deal or not? And you have to, just try to identify what the issues are and see if there's a path forward. And as long as everyone is remaining constructive in tone and action, and then keep working it. And, likely you can find a way forward because there are, strong incentives on both parts to get there. And we ultimately we had to be patient with this and be patient and persistent and, doing a lot of communication about it.
So how was the integration once the deal was kind of closed? We all hear about M&A pretty frequently. I'm sure probably everyone on the call here listen or sees it regularly, but no one really, not to say that nobody, but the integration of one company into another is
right.
Probably one of the most difficult things. how do you integrate, and how was the integration? And then how are you still able to hold 92% employees enjoying working?
Yeah, you got to kind of break up the integration topic into a few components. Immediately, sort of acutely, you have operational and financial integration, and then the technology integration takes some more time. On the initial integration, we've really developed a strong playbook of knowing what we need from a target company and being able to quickly get in and extract it, so that when we've been able to repeat this on numerous deals of getting what we need right before we closing, uploading everything that we need into our system, and shipping product from our system effectively immediately within a week or two of closing the transaction. And what's awesome about that is we don't have to worry about offline consolidations of financials. We can maintain all the quality control checks and manufacturing that we normally enjoy, and it's less of a headache on the other side for everyone involved. So hats off to our team for finding all the pathways to do that. It's been very successful that we've done that. The technology integration takes a little more time, but similar results, where the primary team from Z-Wave is located in Copenhagen, Denmark. They're strong part of our Internet of Things team now, and performing very well. So pleased with that part of it as well.
Okay, great. I have a question here for you, John. What are the greatest challenges or successful formulas you've utilized in collaborating with the ops divisions of the companies that you've overseen?
Honestly, part of the challenge is just understanding what everybody's talking about and really being willing to get into it. Like, what do we really do? And take the time, talk to the people. And what's surprising and refreshing about that is, as a financial professional, if you're willing to take the time to talk to folks in ops about what your company does, what you're generally going to find is super high receptivity to engage in that conversation. They want to talk to you about it, actually, and they'll go as deep as you want into the technical aspects of making products, delivering software, whatever it is, and that just really enhances your ability to impact your organization.
Great. All right, now I'm going to move a little bit down the road here, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about your sale to Skyworks. This is something that just happened. I mean, you guys have been incredibly active over the past 3 months. So I look forward to the rest of this conversation, because I suspect we'll be spending a little bit more time on it. But let's start with Skyworks. Tell us a little bit about that. This happened in 2021, but what did you guys do?
Yeah, Chris. So, we sat down as a leadership team and looked at the company really about a year ago, and determined that, number one, we have an enormously, robust opportunity to grow the Internet of Things business. We're addressing, we believe, a $7 billion SAM. We're about 10% of that today. We have a strong leadership position with unmatched breadth and depth in what we're offering in terms of the connectivity protocols, the reach of our technology across a broad base of more than 20,000 customers worldwide, and just see this incredible opportunity funnel of $10 billion, and really want to focus on that. And we looked at the other side of our business, which is also a strong set of products and elements, and determined that they had more, they were more dissimilar than similar in a lot of ways, serving really a different customer base, largely with a different supply chain, not a lot of operational synergies, actually, just the way these things evolved between the two pieces of the business. So, in it's kind of classic sum of the parts perspective, we asked the question, would we be more successful apart than we are together, and decided to really explore that. So, there's a few ways to go about that. We considered spinning out the infrastructure and automotive business as a unique standalone public company. Determined it would probably be subscale in the semiconductor industry. So, really then from there, decided to pursue whether we could find an acquisition partner to acquire that from us. So, that really led us to late last year, early this year. We hired a bank, Catalyst Partners. They did a great job, and marketed this to numerous companies. Received numerous bids, and Skyworks came out on top, not only in terms of economics, but also in the culture, the fit. This is a strategically important business for them. I don't want to speak for them, but I understand their industrial logic on why they would want to do it. It adds diversity to their business, as well as growth and a strong profit profile. So it has ended up being a unique, I shouldn't say unique, but a strong win-win on both. A good deal is a win-win, and I truly see this as a win-win for both companies, and excited for them to carry that forward, and real excited for the future of Silicon Labs now as a pure play company. You're on mute, Chris.
Sorry, there was a fire truck that was just going by, so I didn't think everyone wanted to hear that. But I appreciate you letting me know. So you guys moved to a total focus to wireless and Internet of Things. That is the only focus at this point.
That's right.
Is there any kind of pushback from investors or shareholders, or even internally? Are there people that are a little skeptical about this?
Oh, I'm not going to say none, but not really. I mean, there's been strong support for the transaction all around. People understand why we did this. They understand the logic of it. Pleased with the economics on the outcome of the deal. And I'm sure we'll get into the capital deployment, which is what comes next. But really, the money is important, but really the focus and what can we do now as a leadership team, a sales force, an operations team throughout the company, that this is all we're doing. That's a powerful lever, and we haven't even fully gotten into it. We've just closed the deal in the last couple of weeks, so the future is ahead of us, and we're gonna see what we can do with this. It's pretty exciting, actually.
Great. I have another question here from the group. What kind of tools do you use for investment analysis, M&A or organic?
Yeah, you bet. So we have a number of things. So organically, we look at a new product introduction process where we evaluate all the inputs that go into making a chip, selling it to the market. What are the market assumptions? How big is the market? What are the ASP assumptions on pricing? What are the cost assumptions in manufacturing? Of course, we look at the development cost to implement that, and measure ROI metrics on what is an attractive return from that investment, and make the decision to go forward. But I don't want to. There's a lot of qualitative factors that go into that as well, around differentiation. It's one thing to make assumptions about penetration of a market, but to really understand how is it that what we're doing is unique and will be recognized in the marketplace is another important part of that. On the M&A side, we look at whether a target company has a strategy, products, customers that fit strongly with what we're doing, and a good team. We've used acquisitions as a way to build the team. A lot of times companies will buy companies and pursue a lot of synergies and cost reductions. That really is not our style. We look to enhance our team through the acquisition work that we do. And then, on the financials, key points of metric are, can we be accretive to growth, gross margin, and EBIT margin? Yeah, and if not immediately, soon in the future. And of course, you look at discounted cash flow analysis and valuing the company that you're considering acquiring, and understanding how that value compares to market multiples to get a sense of whether it's a good deal or not. So it's a number of factors that go into it.
I don't know if you could see some of these chats here, but there's all kinds of questions here about Texas and UT, and it's like an SEC thing going on or something. And then you go down to, all the big four stuff going on here, and it's actually pretty funny. So, okay. You guys just got into a tender offer here, a week ago. This is a pretty cool thing that you're doing for your shareholders. It is called a modified Dutch tender offer. I'm not sure, me personally, I don't know a ton about these, so I would love for you to be able to kind of explain some of this and tell us what you guys are doing for your shareholders, because it's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, you bet. So, coming off this deal, we've got about $3.3 billion in the bank, which for a company of our size, it's really excess capital. And we've committed to our shareholders that we expect to deploy about $2 billion of that money back to them. It's their money, and this is an appropriate thing to do. So then you get into, how can you do that? And really, the two main vehicles for this are repurchasing your stock or issuing a dividend, or it could be a special dividend or a recurring dividend. And for this $1 billion, we've decided to proceed with a stock repurchase. Then the next thing to ask yourself is what are the right techniques for executing a share repurchase? And there are multiple techniques. There's what's called, just the regular open market repurchase, which is more of an ongoing repurchase program that companies use a lot. Another technique is called an accelerated share repurchase, where you're committed to do a certain amount of capital over time, and then the price is more indeterminate. The challenge in both of those cases is that there are trading restrictions on how much you can buy on a daily basis. And if you just take the total expectation of $2 billion and subject it to that restriction, it would take a long time to take that out, a couple of years. And we just felt like it was appropriate to proceed and get on with this. So, the third way to do this is to execute what's called a tender offer. And this Dutch auction is the mechanism for that. And all that really means is you provide the investors a grid of pricing, and then they can submit their proposal or their bid, basically, that I want to sell this much of shares at that price. And then the highest price that gets a complete fill on that is the clearing price on the entire tender. So that's the mechanism. It is kind of interesting, the way a traditional Dutch auction works. We think of an auction where you start at a low price and people bid it up. A Dutch auction is the inverse of that. It starts with a high price and then they start working it down. So there's only one bid. Someone says, I'll take it at that price, and that's the clearing price. So this isn't quite like that, but it's kind of like that, where the highest price that gets a complete fill is the clearing price.
So that means you still have $2 billion. What are you going to do with it?
Expectation is we would deploy another $1 billion, and then we'll keep $1 billion. And so that last $1 billion is available again for onward M&A work, as things arise, as well as onward capital deployment even further out in time. And, that could be more in the form of a traditional open market repurchase program. We'll see. So.
Fair enough. I didn't mean to put you in the corner there.
It's okay.
Okay. So I've got a couple more questions here. If anyone else has more questions, let me know. But I think I'm going to kind of move from you being a CFO to a board of directors. You are now sitting on the board of a company called MacroFab, which right. I believe, if I've got this right, it's a contract manufacturer. Is that correct?
Yeah, they actually have created a SaaS platform to deliver contract manufacturing by pairing up customers who have a need with factories who have that capacity. And very interestingly, the focus is on the North American market. So with everything going on in geopolitics and reshoring, it's really an awesome time for their business model, and business is going well. So really excited to join the board of MacroFab.
Cool. Now, how is it different from sitting in the current role that you sit in on a regular basis, and being on the other side, looking at what a company is doing, and I mean, directing it. How do you go about doing that? That's got to be a very interesting transition for you.
Yeah, it's really cool. You know, you're learning a whole new space and learning how they operate, and similar to this, just trying to provide some insights and guidance drawn from my experience. So it's early days, but it's not unlike more like the big 4 days where you're walking in, you don't know anything, and just let me quickly learn the lay of the land. And so it's being able to apply those skills actually as well. So just getting to know the team there has been great, and very encouraged by their progress.
Great. All right. So I have a question here that I'm going to bring up in just a second, but I think one of the things that's interesting, and a common thread of some of the CFOs that I've interviewed of the same caliber as you is, and I don't mean to put any words into your mouth, but they all seem to say that it's very important to have a mentor or several mentors. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it is. And, I've had some great mentors over the years, and, just being able to build that relationship, keep in touch, and listen and take input and feedback is super important. And, sometimes that can be even like, hey, slow down a little bit, or, so mentors are really important. And if you have an opportunity to be a mentor for other folks, I strongly encourage that as well.
Okay. There's probably a few people on here that would like you to be their mentor. I would do that too, by the way.
Sounds good.
I noticed you didn't say yes. So we have a brand new CFO on board here. He's asking, or she's asking, sorry, I don't know. If you had one book to recommend, what would it be? And I'm assuming that this is about being a leader, about being a CFO.
I really enjoyed the book An Unfinished Life about John F. Kennedy. I'm currently reading A History of English-Speaking Peoples by Winston Churchill. Those are a couple that come to mind.
Nice. You're a history buff. I like it. Okay. Here's a couple of other questions. What are the top 2 issues or challenges that keep you up at night as a finance leader?
You worry about the team and how is everybody doing? It's been tough in this pandemic. I think I saw a little bit of a reference to that as well. And I think this pandemic has emphasized to us that the health topic is not just physical health, but it also calls out how mental health for everyone is important. And I think we're all going to be thinking about that a bit more going forward. Of course, you worry about shipments and making numbers and all that stuff, but really think about the team.
And then, yeah, you kind of alluded to it, but having gone through a pandemic like this and its financial impact, what is your strategy in conserving cash if you have a lot of it?
It's been really interesting, and I know not in the semiconductor industry, and I think just manufacturing writ large, we're seeing such a surge back to restock. And think about what's happening in the automotive industry. If you're trying to buy a car, there aren't any cars on the lots. You're trying to get a new appliance, the wait times are longer. So the supply chain disruption that occurred really a year ago, the recovery back is in full force, and we are very much oversubscribed in terms of our demand versus what we can supply.
Right.
So it's a good question, but it to be honest, that question was a bit more relevant a year ago when the pandemic was first hitting. Now it's really about expanding our supply and building the team and carrying on with our growth plans.
Great question. So do you think that there is I don't know if do you think, but is there a playbook based on all of what you have done to get to the CFO role? I don't think I know the answer to this, but what are your kind of thoughts about making it to the level that you're at?
Yeah, it's a good question, Chris. If there is a playbook, I don't know what it is my honest answer. But if I try to abstract up, I guess what I will say is if you have that as a goal, and you're clear about it, one thing I routinely tell people is to be vocal about that. Don't be shy about letting people know. And we talked about mentors a bit ago. You know, if I am mentoring you or I'm a leader in your company, I can't even try to shape your future in that direction if I don't understand that that's really deep down what you want. And you'd be surprised how receptive people are to hearing that as a, you know, humbly put forth career goal. And it's a great goal. And I, you know, the second point, which is, you know, kind of what I've experienced is be willing to take some chances and take opportunities when they come up. And, you know, the question about the playbook, people may think there's a straight line. It's not always a straight line. It may have some zigs and zags, but those can be some fun and interesting experiences too.
So we've got a couple more minutes here, not very many. I have one question that we've talked about already, but I'm probably going to ask you one that's offline and you're going to be mad at me. So we'll see how that goes. But here's the first one. If you can impart one thing to everybody on this call, what would it be?
Yeah, I think I'd give you the best advice I ever got from my dad, which is just be yourself. You know, we're all unique people, and the more authentic you can be is just better for yourself and everybody else, because everybody's got something to offer, and we can understand you better. So be yourself.
Okay, great. All right, so here's the one that's a little offline. I don't want people to think that you are, you know, way larger than life. So I was hoping that you might be able to share a funny story about you.
You know, I
I know CFOs have a sense of humor.
honestly, Chris, I think we hit them on the you know, the farming and ranch stuff. I don't really have another one to go to. So
all right. All right. I thought there might be something a little bit buried there, but
I didn't come with the zinger here. But,
all right, fair enough. All right. Well, I don't have any other questions for you, but I do thank you so much for taking the time out of your day. I know you're very, very busy. You know, this has been an absolute pleasure for me and Armanino. And you know, I would love to continue being able to have some of these conversations with you, because I really enjoy our conversations. It's been fun. So
you bet, Chris. Again, thank you very much, and thank you to everybody out there for listening. Hope it was useful, and good luck to everybody.
Thank you, sir. Have a good one.
Okay.
Bye.